everybody, welcome to another Type 1 Talks live stream. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. Give me a thumbs up in the chat so that I can see that everything is going all right. So far I don't see any thumbs up, but I hope you can hear me and you can see me. Today I want to cover a very important topic that many of you are interested in, based on the views on my channel and based on the questions that I saw in the YouTube comments, and that's lowering blood sugar and kind of consistently achieving good blood sugar levels. It's something that I feel every diabetic struggles with, and that's why I want to talk about it today. Please write in the chat if you can hear me and if you can see me. I just want to make sure that everything is working fine before I get into it. So thanks for the feedback. No way Mr. Bobby is saying good sound and video, so it looks like everything is working just fine. So welcome to this Type 1 Talks live stream. As I said, the topic today is really blood sugars, how to lower blood sugar, how to consistently achieve stable blood sugars, and really all the things that go in hand with that. If you have any questions on this topic, please put them in the chat. I will try to get to as many of them as possible today. Tag me if you have any questions to me, tag me in the chat so that I can see it's not a side conversation, it's actually a question for me. Now, before I get into it, I just want to give a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, I'm no kind of medical professional, I'm not certified, I'm not qualified in any of these topics that I might be talking about today. I'll just really be talking from my experience and sharing my experience living with diabetes for over 35 years. I'm a type 1 diabetic diagnosed at the age of 3. I'm 39 today, so 36 years with type 1 diabetes and counting. And before we get to the Q&A and before I get to your questions, I just want to really quickly cover 3 factors that I think are really the main factors when it comes to blood sugar control and the efforts that many people put into lowering blood sugar. I think there are 3 things that are super important, and there's often a lot of noise about what do we need to do, or what we should do, what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. But I really want to take a step back from all these little things and really focus on 3 main factors that I think are super important. And number 1 is insulin sensitivity, because insulin sensitivity is like an overreaching topic regardless of the type of diabetes that someone has. If someone is insulin resistant, it's very difficult to keep blood sugars under control. It's very difficult because even, regardless if you take insulin from externally, inject yourself, or if your body still produces some insulin, things become very unpredictable when you are insulin resistant. And I can even see that on me. When I don't focus on insulin sensitivity, it's very difficult for me to control my blood sugar and to actually predict what it's going to be in the next hours, in the next days. So that's why I try to always focus, number 1, on improving insulin sensitivity, and that can be done in many different ways. It's a regular exercise, it's a good nutrition, it's enough sleep, quality sleep, reducing stress levels. All these things go into that, and so without even going into all the details, I think focusing on these things is very important. Because when we become more insulin sensitive, the blood sugar become more predictable, and we can control them a lot easier because we can have a better sense what's going to happen when that insulin that we inject or that our body makes actually works the way it should be. The more insulin resistant we become, the more difficult things become for us. And so when I say exercise, what I mean really is regular aerobic exercise. You don't have to lift weights, you don't have to do crazy super fast sprints. It's more about, go for a walk, go for a run, just do whatever you like doing, full body exercise, whatever you can do, some people are limited in the way they can move, especially at the older age. We're not as flexible as we were as children or teenagers. I fully understand that. But whatever you can do to get that body moving can help with insulin sensitivity. Another thing, nutrition, I talked about it in numerous of my videos. Eating good quality whole foods that is not processed or ultra processed really helps with insulin sensitivity. Any kind of processed foods, especially ultra processed foods, like fried things that are fried, that are produced in a factory, these things just will always have negative impact on the insulin sensitivity, whatever it is. So focusing on good whole foods, regardless what kind of food it is, as long as it's not processed, it's always better. And I try to take this high level approach, really not going into much detail if someone should be keto or plant-based or vegan or carnivore. Of course, all these approaches can work, but high level, it's really about eating good quality whole foods. And that's, I believe, is the most important thing. Getting a good sleep, of course, super important, and reducing stress levels as well. But I don't want to get too deep into that. So first factor in lowering blood sugar, achieving stable blood sugar, insulin sensitivity. The second factor is really checking blood sugars frequently. If you watched my channel before, you know I talk about CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, a lot. If you can have a continuous glucose monitor, I think it's the best possible tool to achieving good balanced blood sugar. If you can't, you can still check your blood sugar with finger pricking with a glucometer. It just needs to be done regularly, 6-10 times a day, before meal, after meal, during the night, and that gets very, very tiring. But without checking the blood sugars frequently, we just don't have the information how our body is actually reacting to things that we do, things that we eat. And without that information, without understanding what's happening and what's good for us, what's bad for us in the immediate time, it is very difficult to improve things. So that's why I think checking blood sugar frequently is the second most important thing, and then taking notes and journaling things that we see in those blood sugar trends and how they relate to what we do in our lives, what we eat, how much we sleep, what kind of stress we have, what kind of physical activity we do. Linking these things together can give us a good idea what's working, what's not working, and maybe point us to what we might want to change. If we want to take more insulin, if we want to take less insulin, if we want to do some other changes to our diet, things like that. If we don't have the information about blood sugars and the insulin intake and everything else, it's really difficult to nail down the right insulin dose and the right carb to insulin ratio, the right timing of insulin delivery, and all these things. So checking blood sugar and keeping a journal is super important, because when you don't have that, even when you see a doctor or someone who you want to do coaching with, if they don't see that information, it's very difficult to help anyone without having that knowledge, having that information. And the third thing, I think the third pillar of lowering blood sugar and getting good stable blood sugars is the mindset. And specifically what I mean by the mindset is my blood sugars were terrible when I was a teenager. When I was in high school, my HbA1c was as high as 13. And the main reason for it was I didn't really care. I knew I was supposed to take care of myself and do all these things that people with diabetes should do, but I was not there mentally. I was not prepared to take the responsibility. I was not even ready to acknowledge, I live with diabetes and there are things that I need to do. I was just not there, and the mindset was not there. I think without knowing why we want to improve the blood sugar levels, why we want to improve the HbA1c, without having some kind of higher level goal in our life, it's super challenging to actually improve these things. So I think setting goals, why we want to achieve better blood sugars, why we want to get the diabetes under control, that are not necessarily because our doctor told us, but based on what we want to achieve in our lives. I think setting these goals and working towards them is super important and more motivating for us to actually achieve those goals. And as you probably know, if you've lived with diabetes for some time, things will not always work out. So even if you have goals and you work really hard, doing everything you can to get to those goals, to lower HbA1c, let's say from 8 to 7 or from 7 to 6, sometimes things that just don't work out. And so it's super important to go step by step, in my opinion, and not to getting too upset if things don't work out, because it's the same for everybody. Nobody is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes we don't even need to make mistakes, but our body decides that it will shoot our blood sugar to the sky without any reason, and we just don't know why. But that's just what it is, and so not always things go as planned, and I think it's super important to recognize that and be prepared that we will not always, that not every day will be a blue sky, and so on. So it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to, and it's important to learn from these mistakes. If something didn't go right, and if I did something wrong, if I took too much insulin for dinner, and then I had low blood sugar at night, that happens to me twice, 3 times, that's probably indicating that I should be taking less insulin. So learning from those mistakes, I think it's okay to make them, but it's also important to learn from them and not be too hard on ourselves when something doesn't go as planned. So that was the initial ramble or presentation that I prepared. It was just really a little bit freestyling from my side, but those 3 things that I believe are super important for lowering blood sugar and achieving good HbA1c, good blood sugar levels consistently. Once again, insulin sensitivity, checking the blood glucose levels regularly, and having the right mindset. These things super important before even going to things like, should we eat meat or vegetables? That's secondary. I think these 3 things come first, and then everything else comes after that. So having said that, I'm going to go to your questions, because I see there is something already in the chat, and I'll just take it from the beginning. If I forget about someone, please let me know, and I will get back to it. Again, if you tag me in the chat, I will see it better, and I will see there's a question for me. I will start with the super chat from JDR. Thank you for the super chat. And JDR says he or she's long-term follower, and is asking, what have you seen online about the dangers of regular low blood sugar levels other than passing out in the moment? Well, of course, with blood sugar levels, I agree with you. The main risk that I see for myself, or what I'm most afraid of, is to go low, to go to hypoglycemia without being able to deal with it myself, and needing assistance from someone else, or getting in a situation where I pass out and I'm just not able to control the situation. I think this is the biggest immediate threat. What you're asking is the long term. I think in the long term, when those low blood sugar levels happen too often, I believe that our ability to recognize that the blood sugar is going low might go down. So the more often we have low blood sugar, I believe, and please take it with a grain of salt, because again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. The more frequently it happens, the more likely it is that as one gets older, they might not be able to actually notice or feel that they are getting low, if that makes sense. And of course, the more often this happens, the more often you can be in that immediate danger of passing out in a situation when there is no one around you to help you out, or no one around you who knows how to help you out. And that's, I think, another important topic to something that I was not very good at when I was younger. I didn't tell my schoolmates, I didn't tell my friends that I have diabetes. I always wanted to hide it. Back then I didn't wear a CGM, and so it was not that difficult to hide it and check my blood sugar somewhere in the bathroom where nobody could see me. And I didn't tell my friends what to do. I didn't share with them what to do if I pass out, if my blood sugar goes too low. So they had no idea, and they wouldn't even be able to help me. And I think that was a mistake. So right now I treat this differently. I tell people about that, and I try to explain to the closest friends and the people who are with me the most how to help me if that something like that happens. But I fully understand those of you who might not feel comfortable just yet, or who might not feel comfortable in general talking about their medical condition with others, even close friends. And I think that's something you have to decide for yourself. I just want to say that I understand even that point of view. Julia asked a question already before I started streaming, and she was saying, "Hi Tom, thank you very much for your channel." Thank you, Julia, for watching. Julia has a 4-year-old daughter with type 1 diabetes, diagnosed about 2 months ago. And she's asking, what could be the reason for high in the afternoon and evening? And her daughter is supposedly taking Tresiba and Humalog. Well, there can be many reasons for this. I think one question I would ask right away is that blood glucose rising gradually throughout the afternoon and the evening, or does it jump up rather quickly, let's say after lunch, and then stays high for the whole afternoon and the whole evening? And the reason why I'm asking is because if it's the former, then it might indicate that she might need more basal insulin. If it's the latter, it might indicate that she might need more fast-acting bolus insulin for lunch. So it is very difficult to answer it, and I cannot give you medical advice over internet. I cannot give you medical advice at all, but especially over internet with limited information, very hard to say. But one thing I would consider is the basal insulin correct? Is the Tresiba dose correct? Is the Tresiba timing right? Does she need more bolus? Does she need more fast-acting insulin maybe before lunch or before dinner? Or is it something else maybe? Is it that you don't fully understand carb counting and you're not dosing enough insulin depending on how many carbs she eats for lunch and dinner? That might be another reason. But I would start thinking about, is the spike in the blood sugar gradual throughout the whole afternoon and evening? That would indicate she doesn't have enough basal. If it's a steep spike after lunch, after dinner, it's probably either not enough fast-acting insulin or not giving her the insulin early enough before meal. I hope that helps. If you have any follow-up questions, you can always write them in the chat. So Chris is asking, do you believe in hand gestures which reduce sugar? I don't know exactly what you mean. I never heard about this. I don't think the hand gestures I make, for example, during the stream reduce my sugar, because it's very, very limited movement and not really involving a lot of muscles. Usually for me personally, the more muscles I start moving, like the full body exercise or running, is something that brings my blood sugar down very fast. If I just move one hand, or it just doesn't work that effectively, if you know what I mean. And so I don't think hand gestures make a big difference, but I might be wrong. I don't know if there is any study or research that you are referring to. So Nadia is asking, I have a question, please. I go to sleep and my sugar is 98. As soon as I start walking around, they shoot up to 175 to 200. With eating, then I eat, take my insulin, and then run up into 275. So if I understand correctly, your blood sugar is 98 when you go to bed, and then in the morning when you wake up, it's around 200. You're not really asking a question, but I assume that your question is, why is it so high when I wake up, if it was okay when I went to bed? Here it depends a little bit, are you actually taking long-lasting insulin? I assume you do. And then it would be important to know when it goes up. If you are using a CGM, you will probably see if your blood sugar just goes up throughout the whole night, from this 100 to in the evening to 200 in the morning, or if it's around 100 the whole night and then spikes up early morning before you wake up, which sometimes happen because of dawn phenomenon and things like that, that the morning blood sugar just spikes without any other obvious reason. So if it's the first situation, then the blood sugar is just spiking throughout the whole night. It seems the basal insulin might not be sufficient. If it was happening to me like this, I would think, okay, I probably don't have enough basal, enough long-lasting insulin. If it just jumps up in the morning, it might be dawn phenomena. It might be that you just need to take your morning insulin dose earlier to avoid at least that spike from 175 to 275, because if you go up from 175 before breakfast to 275 after breakfast, again, you probably don't have enough, you're not taking enough insulin, or you're not taking it early enough. So one of those two, you might want to talk about that with your doctor and try to figure out the right dose and the right timing. I hope that helps. Next question, Mahmoud is asking, my HbA1c is 6.3 and my age is 60 years old. I am from India. Please reply to me. Okay, I mean, that's 6.3. That's a great HbA1c, perfectly within the recommended below 7. So you're doing, I guess, a good job. Again, depending on your situation, on your goal, I would love to reply to you, but you're not asking a question, so I hope this response is fine for you. If you have any more specific questions, just put them in the chat. Next question, what about Candida? How often is it? Do you personally face it? I don't know what you mean, unfortunately. I cannot respond to this one. Have you faced any diabetic neuropathy is the next question. I don't have any issues with neuropathy, which, if I get it right, is basically problems with my feet or my legs as a consequence, or as a just damage caused by high blood sugars and diabetes in general. I don't have this problem, but I'm getting checked annually. So every year I get checked by my endocrinologist. He basically do an examination of my feet, of my legs, make sure my blood flow is okay, that I can feel when he touches me in different parts of my feet. And I believe this is an important exam to do, especially for those who are not well controlled, because obviously neuropathy is one of the potential consequences of long-term uncontrolled diabetes. Okay, next question. I am 13 years old and my blood sugar is always more than 200. I love that we have a 60 years old, 13 years old, and a mother of 4-year-old. That's a combination of age groups. I love this. Again, you're not asking any question here. A 13-year-old, 200 milligrams per deciliter. I mean, if I was 13 years old, I probably was even higher. I'll be completely honest. You know, if your goal is trying to improve the control, the best way to get there is probably researching how this can be done. Paying attention when you see your endocrinologist and trying to figure out some strategy. I cannot give you advice, obviously, over internet with absolutely no information. One thing I would also recommend is just to get CGM if you can, if you have access to continuous glucose monitor, so that you can see what is causing the spikes in your blood sugar, what are the things that might need you to look into a little bit closer. Michelle is asking, did you try the T-Connect app? In Europe is not available. The T-Connect app I actually tried. I believe it is available in Europe, but the thing that's not available is the remote bolus. So the T-Connect app is an app that's used with the Tandem X2 insulin, Tandem T-Slim X2 insulin pump, and I've tried it, but I don't really use it. I don't see any benefit in using it, because everything I could do with this specific insulin pump, I could do directly on the pump, and I saw no added value in using this app, to be quite honest. So moving on to the next question from Lynn. I wear a CGM. Is this still necessary to finger stick and check fasting blood sugar? So the general guidance that the CGM companies and medical professionals usually give when someone is wearing a CGM, they don't need to do finger pricks with those CGMs that are factory calibrated. So Freestyle Libre, Dexcom, G6, G7, these are factory calibrated, so you don't need to do finger pricks. But they recommend people to do finger pricks and check blood sugar with the glucometer whenever how they feels different from what the CGM is showing you. So let's say my CGM is showing 100, which is perfect blood sugar, exactly where I would want it to be, but I feel that my blood sugar is low, or my blood sugar is high, then I would do a finger prick, and just to make sure it's not far off from the CGM. There are a lot of things that go into that, and we should not be comparing always the CGM reading and glucometer reading as is apples to apples, because the CGM is using different method to read the glucose than the glucometer, but they should be within a 20% tolerance during any time when the blood sugar is relatively stable. So if it's way off, then your CGM reading might be wrong, and you might need to calibrate your Dexcom, or you might need to replace the Freestyle Libre if it seems to be a faulty sensor. But I have specific videos on this topic, So maybe check out, depending on what CGM you are using, if it's Freestyle Libre or Dexcom, check my videos on those CGMs because I covered the accuracy topic there in a lot of detail. I have a hard time reading some of your nicknames here. So BHMMM, I'm sure this is not how I'm supposed to read it, but that's the way I will read it. Just wanted to say I appreciate the channel and all you do. Keep on going on, everyone. Thank you very much. I appreciate you spending your time here and writing this comment. It means a lot for me. Julia is asking what timing for Tresiba should be. So Tresiba, maybe I guess you are reacting to what I responded to your previous question. So there is no given time that would be universal for everyone when exactly to take Tresiba. But what is more or less universal, or what is part of the information that you can look up for any insulin that you take, and we're talking about Tresiba, but you can do this for any insulin. You can go online and you can find Tresiba, and I always like to do that when I coach people. Depending on what insulin they take, they should understand what is the time, what is the action time or duration time of that insulin, because every insulin has a peak time and overall duration. I think the duration of Tresiba is around 42 hours, and I don't believe it has a peak. But what it means for you is whenever you inject Tresiba, it will work from the moment you injected it approximately for 42, maybe 48 hours. And so if I think in your example you said that your daughter is high, or her blood sugar goes high in the afternoon, the reason might be, and I'm not sure if it is, again I'm not a doctor, but the reason might be that when you inject Tresiba, it doesn't work that well in the afternoon anymore if you inject it before she goes to bed. So you might want to consider changing the time from morning to the night. But I'm not saying one time is right for you and one time is wrong. There is no specific time. This is something you really need to talk about with your doctor, and see if changing the time might help. But please don't change the time right now just because I told you, because there is a lot of other things that go into this. So just consider if that might be the reason. I hope that helps. Any idea, Jerry is asking, any idea when Libre 2 update for real-time reading is in the US? How is it working out? So I think Libre 2 is now real-time. I believe Libre 2 already did this update, and the data from Libre 2 should be feeding directly into the reader or the phone without needing to scan. Those in the US, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not currently using Freestyle Libre, I'm using Dexcom. But Jerry, I believe this should already be available in the US. Karen is asking, how do you lower a high between injections if you haven't been able to walk that day? Between injections. This is very difficult to respond to this because there is not enough information. You mentioned a walk. Walking usually helps lower blood sugar in general. If you're not able to walk, is it because you need to sit in the office? You might need to do some of the push-ups with your legs that are proven to lower blood sugar. One thing you might also want to consider, if you know why this high happens, because you're saying you are high between injections, but there is a reason why this happens. So what is the root cause of this? Because whenever you try to lower your high blood sugar, you already putting up the fire. but maybe there is something you can do proactively to avoid going high. Maybe it is taking the insulin earlier before you eat. Maybe it is different dose of insulin. Maybe it is a different type of meal that you eat, which will not spike your blood sugar that fast. That will be a more balanced, less carby meal. I'm not saying any of these reasons is the right reason for you, but these things I would think about, and I would try to focus more on why you are high rather than how to fix it, because that usually helps in the long term. Okay, next question from Afsar. I am 28 years old, T1D since 2017. Just wanted to know, does longer uncontrollable blood sugar causes ED? If yes, what treatments are there? I don't really know. It probably can cause ED. What treatments are there? No idea. This is a question for a doctor. I don't have this type of problem, but I believe uncontrolled diabetes can have many can lead to many problems in the long term, and this might be one of them. Okay, Sebastian is saying, I have the Libre 2 for real-time reading in Canada. Game changer. Yes, so it seems in Canada it's working. It's a software update, so maybe in the US it's also just a software update that they didn't roll out yet. But I don't have this, I don't know this off the top of my head. I would need to look it up. Moving on to next question from VA. I am from India and here CGM and Dexcoms are too costly. And what should I do? And how much do you spend in a month for your supplies as a type T1D? So I will start with the second point. I am in Switzerland, and here the system we have is for people who pay health insurance that get most of these things covered by insurance. In general, it's not always the case, but for me personally, I get my CGM covered, and I have my insulin covered and my insulin pump covered. There is a certain deductible I have to pay, and in Switzerland that deductible depends on your insurance scheme. In general, it's between 300 and anywhere between 300 and 2,500 Swiss francs or US dollars. That's about the same. Plus we pay the actual insurance, which is about 400 a month. So it's for me it's a combination of paying for the health insurance, in total about 5,000 per year, and for the deductible, which can be anywhere between 300 and 2,500. That's about that number. I understand in India you don't have, it's costly, you don't have access to it. What should you do? If you have access to a glucometer and test strips, that's probably the only thing you can do. I really don't have a solution to that. I know there are so many people living in countries like India and many others who just don't have access, and I recognize this is a huge problem, and it bothers me that while we are so let's say lucky and fortunate in Western Europe and in the US, that 80% of the diabetics in other countries of the world don't have access to these tools. What you can do, it's hard to say. Hopefully you have access at least to a glucometer and you can check your blood sugar. The best way to do it is, checking always before meal and about 2 hours after meal to know what happened during that time, how that meal impacted your blood sugar, and also before you go to bed. Sometimes in the middle of the night just to get an idea what your blood sugar is doing during that time. But I fully agree, without CGM it's not ideal. Next question from Tiggs. And now I lost it. Hey mate, thanks for sharing all your experiences and knowledge. It really helped me. Well, you're welcome. I'm happy it helped, and I really appreciate you sharing that feedback, because that's what kind of keeps me going. If I hear from someone that what I'm doing here helped, it motivates me to do more and kind of keep going. So thank you for saying that. Adam is saying, I'm 35 and have had type 1 since I was 5. I got the Freestyle Libre 2 and the Omnipod 5 within the last year, hoping they work together soon. Yes, I think they will. I hope they will. Omnipod right now works with Dexcom G6. In case you wanted to explore that idea and to get immediate integration with the CGM, there are also other options that would be DYI type but with Omnipod 5 right now the only option is Dexcom G6. I believe the G7 and also Freestyle Libre 2 should be coming in 2024, but they have not announced the timing. So fingers crossed. I really hope you will get that integration soon, because it's a game changer. And Adam also saying he went from 11 H1C to 8.2. Well done. Yeah, keep going. That's great. Keep it up. All right. Just looking for some more questions. Thomas is asking, I'm struggling to get glucose below 200, type 2. Metformin, Ozempic, and keto diet. Should I try fasting? Okay, so this is a loaded question. You can try fasting. You can try, and there are, I believe, many ways to get there. I would be curious to hear how long you've been doing keto and if you've tried other options as well. I know that keto diet works very well for many type 2s that I know in person. There is even a YouTube channel called Beat Diabetes, I believe. Dennis Pollock is also, I believe, a type 2 diabetic who is eating low carb, pretty much keto, and is achieving great results. But I know that this does not work for everyone, and so the kind of the opposite approach of mastering diabetes. I don't know if you heard those two guys. They are actually recommending almost the exact opposite for improving insulin sensitivity. Because keto diet is not really that good for insulin sensitivity. And I know many of you will be saying in the comments that's not true, but from my personal experience, when I eat low carb, I get more insulin resistant. When I eat more whole food plant-based things, then I get more insulin sensitive. Although the immediate impact of eating carbs as part of that plant-based whole food diet is like spiking my blood sugar. I know when I keep doing it for a few days, for 2 weeks, I just need less insulin. I will get more insulin sensitive, and that might also help in your case. You wrote here that you're taking metformin and Ozempic. I'm not really a doctor, so for me, okay, I understand in general what these drugs do, but seems that the way it's now is not working well because you're still above 200. So trying to switch that diet around might be something I would try if I were you, and also maybe talking to your doctor and see what, just be clear that this is not working for you, that you're not happy with that blood sugar in the 200s all the time, and that you would want to look for other solutions. And I think that that is a perfectly valid question for the doctor to ask them to come up with some ideas. I'm not saying he needs to put you on insulin, but maybe just the dosing is not right, or the combination with other medications is not right. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but just a few ideas. I hope that helps at least a bit. Omar, thank you for the super chat, Omar. Omar is asking thoughts on creatine for gym. I can't say anything. I have no idea what this does. I have no personal experience, and unfortunately, I can't comment on that. I wish I could. Okay, there is a lot of questions here. I'm gonna go to McKinley. Being type 2, how you get your morning blood sugar down? I have a video on this on YouTube. If you go to my videos, I think I made it about a year ago. It's called How to Avoid High Morning Blood Sugars. I share about 6, 7, maybe 8 things that might help. I'm probably not gonna come up with all of them off the top of my head, but I would point you to that video. Maybe watch that one, and I think that might help you. If not, feel free to come. I will probably be doing this live stream more often. Feel free to come back, and maybe after trying some of those things, we can revisit the conversation and chat about that again. I hope that's okay for you. Next question is from John. How do I make my blood sugar reading from Dexcom the default display on my watch? All right, I have a video on that too, and I definitely can't answer that off the top of my head, and I think most of the people in the chat would probably leave if I go into the technicalities on this. But there is a video how to get your Dexcom reading on your watch. It's on my channel. If you can't find it on my channel, I know Crystal from the Diabetes Strong YouTube channel also has a video on that topic or a similar topic. So try to look there. I hope you can find it. If you go, by the way, whenever you are on my channel page or YouTube channel page, you go to the videos tab, and there you can search the videos. So you can do a specific search on my channel level, not within the YouTube, but on my channel level in the videos tab, you can do a specific search, and that should help you find the video. Okay, next question. Forerunner for Christ. Good morning, Tom. Contacting from Massachusetts, USA. Greetings to Massachusetts. My daughter was diagnosed with type 1 at 10 months old. She's 1 today. I wish her happy birthday. And you came across my channel videos, and they are great. Well, thank you so much. God bless you too, and wishing you all the best. I can imagine this is a steep learning curve for you. Your daughter being diagnosed so early, and there is so much my parents had to learn when I was 3 and was diagnosed. I don't remember it, but I can only imagine how difficult, or not, I don't want to say difficult because I don't want to say anything negative, but how challenging that is, and how much efforts it is to learn the in and outs. If you want to connect with me, I have a community site on Patreon where we can chat one-on-one. If you need support, I would be happy to support you. I cannot respond to all the questions on my channel, but on Patreon it's relatively affordable, where I try to help out through text messages as I can. But you absolutely don't need to do that. I appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best. and your next comment is, it's a whole new world. Diabetes does not run in the family. Yeah, all the best. All right. All right, so McKinley is asking, I think, a couple of times the same question, which I already responded about morning blood sugars. Here is a question from Claudan. Hi, I got diagnosed 3 months ago and everything is good, but sometimes it goes about 250, 300 when I ate nothing. Do you know what that might cause? If that happens irregularly, it might be, if that happens just randomly, let's say not always at the same time, if there is no pattern that you can identify, it could be stress, it could be exercise, because some types of exercise spike blood sugar actually, which is kind of contradictory, but most types of exercise bring blood sugar down, but some types, especially heavy intense exercise, bring blood sugar up. This can be the reason. If I were you, I would try to really identify patterns. If you have a CGM, if you can track and maybe circle anytime this happens in your CGM report, and try to find out what you were doing, let's say 3-4 hours before that. If there is any kind of pattern you can find. You know, it can be a million things. It can be a hormonal change. It can be weather. It just so many things that go into it that sometimes it's hard to find. If you're using an insulin pump, it can be a problem with your infusion set or in your pump site. Really there can be many things. The best way I always can identify the reason for something like this happening is when I do coaching sessions with someone. I just have that person track everything for at least a week or 2 weeks. Track not only get the report from the CGM, but just track everything they do, everything they eat, how they feel. And when we have all these informations, we can then look at it and analyze. So I would recommend you to do the same, and maybe, just maybe, you can find some of those trends. Beta Squad fan is going to the Omnipod 5. Great, congrats. Tamar, what should I do about uncontrollable sugar at night? I'm gonna need you to specify that question, because I just don't know what uncontrollable sugar means. Is it spiking up and down? Is it always going low? Is it always going too high? Are you actually, what type of diabetes you have? Are you insulin dependent? I guess all these things can play a role, and there is no way to give any kind of indication or any kind of thoughts on that without knowing more details. All right, next question is from Borders on Abstraction. Hi Tom, I am the mom of a 9-year-old type 1, diagnosed at 1.5 years old. I have learned more from your channel than most other places. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for your nice words. I really appreciate that. And she continues writing, I have noticed that when we have a higher fat content during dinner, he will often go very high while sleeping at the typical amount of insulin and won't bring him into range. We sometimes have to give 3 to 4 units of Humalog, which is a fast-acting insulin, for a blood sugar in the 200s when it would usually only take 1.5 unit. It is scary to give that much, and we get no sleep on those nights. Is it typical after having a high-fat dinner? Yes, it's exactly what happens to me. Exactly this you're describing, it's like exactly what happens to me with very high fat content. So things like pizza or fried foods and things like this that are like full of carbs but also full of fat. I think this is the most difficult one to get it right for people who are insulin dependent, because what happens is that, I mean, how I think about it is that fat kind of locks in those carbs, and those carbs get released later on. So normally when we eat balanced healthy meal, we would take insulin 10 minutes before that meal maybe, and that insulin action goes pretty much in the same manner as the blood sugar spike from that meal. But when you eat when he eats a pizza, there's just the pizza dough is full of oil, and the cheese on the pizza is very fatty, but the pizza dough is also full of flour, which has lots of carbs. Then the blood sugar spike is something like this, going a little bit up, then a little bit straight, and then again, like after 3-4 hours, like you said, going up again. What I do for this personally is I just divide my insulin dose into two. I will take about a half of the insulin that I would normally take based on the carb count before or with that, let's say it's pizza, with that pizza, and the other half like 2 hours after, or even 2.5 hours after. And everyone is different, so you need to figure out that dose. But me personally, I don't feel that I need more insulin. I just count the carbs and then take half of the carbs early and half of the carbs later. Or I do an extended bolus on my pump, which is something I can do with insulin pump. But the pattern that I see is exactly the same that you are describing, and it's like one of the most difficult things to handle. It's a lot of trial and error. Going back to what I said at the beginning, things not always go right. So if you see regularly that he's always high and you like always need to dose a lot more, then I would, if this was happening to me, and again, this is no medical advice, if this was happening to me, I would probably be more aggressive up front. So I would maybe give a little bit more insulin in general for that meal, and I would give half of it before I eat it and half of it 2 hours or 3 hours after, just to cover, just to try to figure out the pattern, and then cover the basically get the insulin action at the same time as the carbs get released. But this is like a higher this is like a university of of diabetes, I feel. So nobody gets that right. So I just hope this helps at least a little bit. I can only imagine how stressful it is when you have to get up multiple times in the middle of the night just to check. And maybe another thing I would consider, and you probably already are doing it, to have some sort of alarms on if he's using a CGM, some sort of alarms on your phone, so that alarm wakes you up and you don't have to get up too many times. But I know it's not a perfect solution. So there is a lot of questions, and I have about 15 minutes. So I'm gonna go through the questions where you guys tagged me, where I can see Type 1 Talks tag. The first one is from MB. Could you kindly share how you would bolus for those high-fat, high-carb style meals like pizza, and how you would bolus for the higher fiber protein meals, i.e. beans and lentils? I think the first one, the high-carb, high-fat pizza, I just described a minute ago. For high-fiber, high-protein meals like beans and lentils, for beans and lentils, what I do is I take extended bolus, and I spread it over a period of 2.5 hours. It depends a bit what exactly is in that meal, but that's what I do. And I notice beans and lentils are like super slow to spike blood sugar. They are great for people who are not insulin dependent, because although they have carbs, I just feel like they don't spike blood sugar really that much. And so I sometimes, what I do is first I spread that dose over 2.5 hours, and second, I will even take a little bit less insulin that I would normally take based on the carbs that are in those foods, because I just feel I don't need that much insulin. Like the previous question went about pizza, it seems that the lady who was asking it needed more insulin that she would normally take for pizza. I feel for beans or lentils is the exact opposite, that the insulin to carb ratio is thrown off a little bit in the direction down for lentils and in the direction up for pizza. But everyone is different, and this is there is no universal answer to this for everyone. So this is how I do it. Okay, next comment where I'm tagged is from Eaterman Place, and he's saying, I've been really good with my blood sugar in the past few months, but recently it has been really poor. I take my Novolog with my food and it still spikes up. Does it have to do something with the cold temperature since it is getting colder? That's an excellent question. In general, what I see for myself is when I get to really warm weather, I need less insulin in general. So when I go for a vacation to Brazil, or I went to Italy this year for vacation, where it was above 30 degrees Celsius every day, which in Fahrenheit is like 90, I needed like 80% of the basal insulin that I normally need. And if you are spending a lot of time outside in a cold weather right now, it might be that you just need more insulin, which is like the opposite of what I could see in summer. And the temperature is actually one of the factors that I can see myself is impacting the insulin needs. So it could very well be, but it can also be something else. So I would, if I were you, I would try to, how I said before, just track things and see if there are any other factors that might impact it, but the temperature might be one of them, as you correctly noted. And there is also a question from VA. Doctor said that carb counting is not important. What do you think about it? Is carb counting important? I mean, for me, it's super important. So carb counting is one of the most important things for me to be able to achieve balanced blood sugar in general. The reason for that is the way my treatment is set up is I'm a type 1 diabetic, I'm insulin dependent, so anything I eat that has carbs, I will take insulin for it. And I use insulin to carb ratio, meaning, and in my case, that goes that for every 15 grams of carbs, I take 1 unit of my fast-acting insulin. And I do that, I would say, almost no matter what. Well, there are some exceptions, but this is what I normally do for my breakfast, for my lunch, for my dinner. Every 15 grams of carbs, 1 unit of insulin. If I eat 60 carbs for dinner, I will take 4 units of insulin. So for me, it's super important, because if I eat dinner with 120 carbs, I will not take 4 units. I will take 8 units, and my blood sugar will be just fine, right? This is a little bit simplified. There's more going into that, but like one of the things going into that as well is the dinner beans or is it pizza? Which then we need to talk about timing, when to take that insulin. But carb counting is super important, and I talked about it in my last video and explained even how to properly count carbs, because what we're actually counting, or what I'm counting, is not total carbs, but I'm only counting net carbs. So whenever I look at the food label, I take the carbs, the carbohydrates that are on the label, and I always deduct the fiber. So after deducting fiber from the carbohydrates, I get to net carbohydrates, and this is the thing that I bolus for. So if I have 60 net carbohydrates, I'll take 4 units of insulin, and that's how I do it. And I cannot imagine how I could have, let's say, well-controlled blood sugars without counting carbs. I don't believe it's possible for me as a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic. I can imagine this is possible for a healthy person or for someone who is a pre-diabetic, because there the body still produces some insulin, but for me the body doesn't produce any insulin, so any carbs that go in, I need to deal with that. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I don't see myself tagged anywhere else. But I think still some questions that I skipped. So let me do maybe a couple more questions. Richard JX, is it true that chilling or freezing cooked carbs will lessen blood sugar spikes? From my experience, it is true. It is true for things that normally spike blood sugar quite a lot. It is true for pasta, for example, or potatoes, or rice. These things that are high glycemic index foods, it is true for me. I could see it working with my own eyes. When I cook pasta and then I put it in the fridge, I leave it a few hours in the fridge, and then I eat it cold, it will spike my blood sugar much less than when I eat it right after cooking it. Now, once it's chilled in the fridge, I can even reheat it, and so it will be warm again, but still the blood sugar spike will not be as significant as it would have been if I didn't put them in the fridge, if that makes sense. So when I eat it cold, it's the most flat blood sugar profile. When I eat it reheated, it's a little bit more of a spike. When I eat the pasta without putting it in the fridge ever, just right away from the pot, then the spike will be much more steep. So, and why that happens, and there are studies to support this, why that happens is because when you cool those things down, then you get this resistant starch is formed, and this resistant starch is basically a different structure that works in our body differently, and I cannot explain without looking at my notes the exact process, but it is perfectly true in my case. Again, everyone is different. Test it for yourself. It's I feel everything in diabetes is trial and error to some extent, so see if that might help, or if it's something that you even want to do. Because when I when I want to eat dinner in 20 minutes, I don't have the time to chill the pasta or the potatoes. I just cook it and eat right away. So it's not always practical, but in my case this works. I will do one more question. But before I do that, I just want to let you know how you can connect with me if you want. So there are multiple ways you can connect with me. One is my Patreon, where I have a community where for a monthly membership you get basically access to me through a text chat, where you can text message me whenever you want, and I respond very fast to all the messages from the patrons. This costs $7 per month, but you have access basically 24/7. Another option for you, if you want to go a little bit deeper, or if you want to talk in person, I do coaching. There is a link in the video description where you can basically book my time for 45 minutes or 90 minutes for a coaching session, where we go much deeper and we can look at your at your data, we can look at whatever journal you have, and we can talk in a lot of detail and try to figure out different ideas and ways how you can address any kind of issues you might be struggling with. And the last thing I want to mention before I go to the last question is a new project that I've started working on just recently, and that's Blood Sugar Academy. And the idea behind the Blood Sugar Academy is because I see that the community around my channel is growing. There is so many of you in the chat, and I'm so grateful for all of you actually spending the time with me. It gives me the energy to create more videos. I want to do this Blood Sugar Academy project, and the Blood Sugar Academy will be a 12-week coaching program focusing on getting blood sugars under control, improving HbA1c, and just overall achieving all these things while maintaining living the life that people want to live. So very individualized approach where I want to bring a small number of people together and spend good quality time sharing our knowledge, and of course me trying to come up with ideas and sharing my experiences with everything that's linked to blood sugar control, regardless of the type of diabetes that you have. So if Blood Sugar Academy is something that you might be interested in the future, there is also a link in the description where you can register. The project is not live, and it will not be live until next year. It will probably go live sometime in 2024. It will be launched, but you can register your interest. And if you register your interest, then I will reach out to you whenever there is more information, whenever the course or the program is launched, and whenever you can actually sign up. So by registering, you also get kind of like an early bird discount and things like that. So if there's something that's interesting for you, click the link in the chat, and you can register your interest. It's no commitment right now, just letting me know you might be interested in the future. All right, let me do the last question, and I will then take actually the last question here that I see in the chat. Fred Flunk is saying, I find when I bolus and wait an hour or 90 minutes to eat, my spikes are lower. Is it okay to do? I think that's a great question, and this is something we call pre-bolus. So when we take insulin ahead of eating a meal, the time you're mentioning, 60 to 90 minutes, is much more or much longer than what I do. I typically do between 10 and maximum 30 minutes, but I'm not saying it's wrong. Everyone is different, and what it also very much depends on is what type of insulin you are using, how fast your insulin is. For my insulin, I'm using Humalog. Sorry, not Humalog. I'm using Lyumjev. I used to use Humalog, now I use Lyumjev, and Lyumjev is ultra rapid acting insulin, which means within 20 minutes of injecting it, it already starts getting in my bloodstream, and the maximum effect of this insulin is within between 1 and 2 hours after injecting. And so when I pre-bolus, when I take that insulin 30 minutes before a carby meal, then I can basically hit the biggest blood sugar spike with the biggest effect of the insulin, and that flattens out the blood sugar spike. Just exactly as you said, your spikes are lower, and your time, 60 to 90 minutes, sounds very long to me. But if your insulin is very slow, meaning some more old school insulin, like I don't even know the names, but there are some that are not ultra rapid acting at all, it might be right. But I would be concerned with anyone here who is listening doing a 90-minute pre-bolus that they might go too low before they start eating. So always consider what's the action time of your insulin, the one you're using, and maybe also discuss, if you're not sure, discuss with someone who can help you, like your medical professional, for example, or someone in the community who is using the same type of insulin. That one last thing I will say to this, that pre-bolus also very much depends on what I eat. So when I eat pizza that we discussed before, or when I eat lentils or beans that we discussed before, for these kind of meals I would never pre-bolus because they don't have very fast insulin action. But let's say I want to eat a fruit bowl consisting of fruit with a very high glycemic index. I know my blood sugar will shoot up after I eat the fruit bowl. And for this thing, I would pre-bolus 30 minutes. I would take the insulin 30 minutes before, because I know that it will take that time for the insulin to work. So another thing to consider. All right, and you're saying you're using Novorapid, and Novorapid is definitely slower than Lyumjev. Still sounds 60-90 minutes sounds quite a lot, but if you eat food with high glycemic index, then it might actually be right. Okay, I apologize, I really have to go. I will be probably back next week around the same time for another Q&A. So feel free to turn on that notification button on my channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, hit that bell, and this will send you notification whenever I announce the next live stream. Thank you for being here. I'm wishing you all the best, and see you next time. Ciao.